In the middle of a busy downtown street, where the hum of engines and the scent of gasoline filled the air, a small, unassuming mechanic shop stood at the corner. The shop, weathered by time, looked nothing special to anyone passing by. To the bikers who roared down the street, it was just another stop where they could grab a quick tune-up or maybe cause some trouble. Inside the shop, a mechanic named Frank worked alone, his body heavy with years of hard labor. His face was worn, but his eyes were sharp. He had been a man of action once, a sniper in the Marine Corps, a life that demanded precision, patience, and a calm under pressure that few could understand. The years had softened his exterior, but inside, he was still the same. On this particular afternoon, a group of reckless bikers rolled into the street in front of Frank's shop. Their engines roared like thunder, and they revved their bikes obnoxiously as they circled, taunting anyone who happened to be nearby. They loved causing chaos, loved being the center of attention. To them, Frank was just another soft target, an easy man to push around. As they pulled up to his shop, they started shouting insults. "What's up, Tubby? You fixing a carburetor, or are you just eating sandwiches all day?" One of the bikers yelled. The others laughed, revving their engines even louder. They began to get even more brazen, knocking over an old toolbox on the ground and kicking a few of Frank's tools out of the way. The noise they made was deafening, and Frank felt the old anger stirring within him, but he kept his cool. He knew how to handle himself. He'd handled worse in the field, much worse. One of the bikers, a tall man with a thick beard, picked up a wrench from the workbench and held it in the air like a trophy. "Look at this junk," he sneered. "Bet this old thing's seen better days. Hey, maybe you should retire, man. Go get a job at McDonald's, where you belong." His friends joined in, laughing even harder now. They didn't realize who they were dealing with. Frank took a deep breath, his mind racing back to a time when everything was clearer, when his senses were sharp and his body agile. He was a sniper, a man who had never missed a shot, a man who could stay silent and still for hours, waiting for the perfect moment. But he wasn't that man anymore. Or at least, he thought he wasn't. As the bikers continued to mock him, kicking over more tools, throwing wrenches, and laughing at his expense, something inside Frank snapped. He stood up slowly, his large body moving with surprising grace. He walked toward the group, the sound of his boots on the concrete echoing in the now quiet shop. The bikers stopped for a moment, seeing something different in his posture. Frank wasn't angry anymore. No, this wasn't about anger. This was something deeper, something they couldn't understand. "You think this is funny?" Frank asked in a voice that was low and steady. The bikers, sensing a shift in the air, chuckled nervously. "Yeah, what are you gonna do about it, old man?" One of them dared. Frank didn't answer. Instead, he reached down to pick up a tool from the floor, one that the bikers had knocked over. His movements were slow but deliberate, like a man who had nothing to prove. As he stood up, the biker with the wrench in his hand took a step forward, still mocking him. "You're a joke, man," he spat. But Frank wasn't listening to him. He wasn't paying attention to the noise or the insults. In his mind, he was already somewhere else, somewhere far away, back in the desert, back in the military. He was a sniper once more, focused and precise. With one fluid motion, Frank grabbed the biker's wrist, twisting it so quickly that the biker cried out in pain and dropped the wrench. The others were shocked, frozen in place. Frank's eyes, cold and calculating, swept over them, and for a moment, none of them moved. Then, as if on cue, Frank took a step back and released the biker's arm. "You don't know who I am," Frank said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of experience. The biker stared at him, unsure of what to do. "And you don't want to find out," he added, turning to walk back to his workbench. The tension in the air was palpable. The bikers stood there, unsure whether they should confront him further or leave. And in that moment, they realized something they had underestimated: the quiet man, they had so carelessly mocked. They had mistaken him for weak because of his appearance, but Frank was no ordinary man. He had survived the most dangerous situations the world could throw at him. He had faced down enemies with far more malice and violence than these reckless bikers. And in this moment, he showed them that strength wasn't about how loud you were or how big you looked. It was about the quiet confidence you carried, the ability to remain calm in the face of chaos. The bikers, their bravado deflated, slowly started to leave, one by one, unsure of what just happened. The leader of the group, still nursing his pride, threw one last insult in Frank's direction. "Don't think this is over, old man," he yelled. Frank didn't respond. He simply went back to his tools, wiping the grease from his hands. But as the bikers faded into the distance, Frank's hand tightened around the wrench he had been holding, his fingers curling around it with the same precision he had used in combat. He wasn't a man to be trifled with, and they had learned that the hard way. The small mechanic shop returned to its quiet rhythm, and Frank, the ex-sniper, went back to his work. The bikers had come looking for trouble, but they left with something far more valuable: respect, and the painful reminder that never again would they judge someone by their appearance. Sometimes, the people you least expect to surprise you are the ones who hold the most power. It's not about how tough you look, it's about what you carry inside.